everybody has this thing about Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou is a bad guy. He's not a good guy.
Dana White has told a lot of wild stories throughout his career, but this one might be the most shocking yet. In a new interview on the Flagrant podcast, the UFC CEO opened up about an incident he says he's kept quiet for years. A moment where former heavyweight champion Francis Ngannou allegedly tried to physically intimidate him behind the scenes.
The conversation's over, I'm starting to leave, and he grabs me by my shirt and like pushes me back in my office. And I said, dude, get your fucking hands off me.
When fans think of Francis Ngannou, they think of the soft-spoken giant with the Hollywood smile and the inspirational backstory. The man who escaped poverty in Cameroon, lived homeless in Paris, chased his dream, and turned into the most terrifying knockout artist in UFC history. But according to Dana White, that calm public persona wasn't the whole story. White explained that Ngannou's first rise in the UFC created an aura around him. Between 2015 and 2018, Ngannou ran through 6 opponents in a row, and each knockout was more brutal than the last. He became the most feared puncher in the sport. But behind closed doors, White says Ngannou wasn't just confident, he was confrontational. Dana says the first major red flag came before Ngannou's first title fight against Stipe Miocic back in 2018. After a press conference in Boston, White says Ngannou walked straight up to him, grabbed his arm, and told him, "When this fight is over, you're going to book me a private plane to Paris." Dana laughed it off, thinking Francis was joking. Ngannou repeated it. "I'm not joking. You're going to book the plane." According to White, there was no language barrier that day, no translator, no miscommunication, and that moment stuck with him.
When this fight's over, you're going to book me a private plane to Paris. And I said, I laughed and said, "Oh yeah." He goes, "I'm not joking. You're going to book me a private plane to Paris." So, there's no fucking language barrier with this guy. He's a bad guy.
Especially because Francis ended up losing the fight in dominant fashion. Stipe dismantled him for 5 rounds, and as Dana joked, that ended that whole conversation real fast. But White says the most intense moment happened later, and this is the part that stunned fans. After another fight where Ngannou didn't receive a $50,000 bonus, Francis stormed into the UFC Performance Institute furious about being overlooked. White invited him into his office to talk, but the conversation escalated. White claims Ngannou didn't just argue, he physically grabbed Dana by his shirt, shoved him back into his office, and demanded to know why he wasn't given the bonus. Dana says he looked Ngannou in the eyes and realized, in that moment, who Francis really was behind the scenes. White told him to get his hands off immediately, and that was the day he says he wanted to cut him from the UFC entirely. Dana even told his matchmakers he wanted Ngannou gone early in his UFC career, but they begged him not to. They saw the potential. They saw the future champion. But Dana says he saw the attitude first. This story adds a new layer to the complicated history between Ngannou and the UFC. A history that eventually exploded in 2023 when Ngannou walked away from the company after failing to reach a new contract. The UFC waived their matching clause, making him a free agent immediately. He then signed with the PFL on a groundbreaking deal that allowed him to pursue professional boxing, which he did, taking massive fights with Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. Fans have always wondered what really happened behind the scenes that caused the UFC and Ngannou to fall apart. Most people believed it was strictly business, money, freedom, boxing. But Dana's story suggests there was personal tension brewing long before negotiations ever collapsed. Of course, it's worth noting that Ngannou hasn't responded to these accusations yet, and fans online are split. Some believe Dana, saying they've always sensed friction. Others think Dana is twisting the narrative to make Ngannou look like the villain now that he's no longer in the UFC. But regardless of which side people take, one thing is clear. This is the rawest insight we've ever gotten into the relationship between Dana White and Francis Ngannou. The UFC CEO didn't just say they disagreed. He didn't just say they clashed. He said the former heavyweight champion tried to physically bully him multiple times. Whether more details come out or Ngannou decides to address the story publicly, this situation adds yet another chapter to one of the most dramatic fighter-promoter relationships in MMA history. Thanks for watching. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any updates, because if Francis responds, we'll break it down the moment it happens.